On today's show, we highlight mental health. There's an event happening this week. We'll tell you all about it. There's an efficiency study that looks how city parish government is working. We got some details on that. And the sheriff's office is here. Roll it, Kirk. Oh, he's my favorite in master control. Let's start the show today. Listeners going to be mad at me about that. Talking about the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office and what's been happening here in the city parish over the last year and where you guys are going into 2025. Casey Rayborn Hicks is here. The sheriff was going to be here. My brother's a bit under the weather, so we're sending best wishes and well wishes to him. Let's start, Casey, by talking about 2024. What would you say, from your perspective, is the grade on public safety in last year?
Well, you know, for the sheriff's office, we made a lot of great strides. I mean, we saw things, trends, patterns, things that were increasing, and we did a lot of collaborative efforts to really attack those things. Like, for example, in 2023, we saw this huge surge in retail crime. So we got with the district attorney's office, we started working on a whole collaborative initiative where we were able to federally charge some of these individuals that were taking all these things from the retail and trying to resell them. And we brought it down, and we saw, you know, where it was only 7% the following year. So a lot of different things like that where we're trying to identify what these new trends are with evolving technologies, things like that. And so, you know, I mean, we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Was that where you saw the biggest spike in crime last year? I know within the city, the chief was here last week and he talked about the number of young offenders spiking so much last year. Was that where you saw the biggest increase?
Well, so that huge increase was in 2023. So they started the initiative in 2024, and we saw a much smaller increase in those retail thefts, just to show that that initiative is working. But, you know, we're seeing just a much of the same, really, to be honest with you. You know, when you look at our homicide rate, you look, we had a bit of an increase in 2024. We went from, you know, I think it was like 23 to 25 UCR homicides for the sheriff's office. But when you look at that, 90% of the cases, the victim knew the perpetrator. 45% of the cases, they were related or they were in a relationship, so what you would call domestic type things. So, you know, we're trying to do a lot on the front end with domestic violence training, things like that, and educating the public even to try to work against those types of crimes.
It's so interesting. Crime has been such a topic of discussion. I know the sheriff's office has been very involved in the community to address that. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that that's been one of Sheriff Gautreaux's biggest passions, is being in the community, relating to the community to try to build that rapport.
Well, absolutely. So, you know, Sheriff Gautreaux has a three-pronged approach to crime. So it's stringent, aggressive enforcement, outreach and education in the community, and then rehabilitative efforts at the prison. And so a huge part of that is that community outreach and education, because so many of our crimes that we're seeing, we're able to solve them working with the community, we're able to prevent them working with the community. So, you know, and that's why I think, you know, when I talk about our homicide rate, we have a 90% clearance rate from 2024, which
90%?
90%.
Well, what's the national average?
The national average, I'll have to look at it, but I know it's much lower than that.
I thought it was around 70%. Or around the upper 60s. That's fantastic.
Yes, and that's a huge part of that collaboration. Well, part of that is that collaboration with the community. You know, when we have people that call us with information. Another part of it is really hardworking detectives that are working around the clock. They've really, you know, busted it to try to solve these cases.
You know, you guys have, the sheriff's office, especially since Sheriff Gautreaux has been there, has always maintained this connection with the community, and the way people interact with him especially, and then the agency has been really remarkable to watch. We're in this period now where there's this lack of trust in law enforcement. How do you maintain that connection with the community so you don't run into what we see in so many cities around America?
You know, I think it's part of that community outreach, that education. It's partly transparency. You know, making sure that we're transparent about what we're doing and how things are going, and so it's that two-way communication with the community. You know, and I think we have a great relationship with the community, and when we look at numbers, people are reflecting that when they're questioned.
I want to ask you about this. We have a new mayor president now, and he's the mayor of the city of Baton Rouge, the president of East Baton Rouge Parish. He's got to work with the sheriff. How has that relationship been over the last month or so?
It's been great. I mean, we met before he took office, before he was sworn in. We've been talking ever since. He brought on Jeff LaDuff, who will always be Chief LaDuff. I mean,
That's right.
He was chief of police when we took office in 2017, so we go way back. And so just listening to what their plans are, their ideas, and working along with BRPD and the chief, I have great optimism about things to come.
Well, look, you guys keep up the great work over there at EBRSO. Tell Sid, even though he didn't make it here, he still owes me that sea bass.
Absolutely, I'll let him know.
Case, where can people learn more about data with the sheriff's office?
You can visit our website. We're about to launch a new website, so keep an eye out for that. That's ebrso.org. You can call the sheriff's office 389-5000, but just reach out to us. We're happy to provide any information we can.
Thank you, Case. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about efficiency in city parish government. A report was recently presented to the Metro Council. A member of the council is here to share details with you next. All right, back with Metro Council member Cleve Dunn. He's been here before, Cleve Dunn Jr. I don't want to disrespect Cleve Dunn Sr. Recently, the Metro Council presented an efficiency report to the city and to our new mayor president. And I was very fascinated by the details. You had some takeaways from this study. Some of it was pretty startling.
Yes.
And then some things that you could do to be better as a city parish government. Yes. Let's talk about why you wanted this study to happen.
Well, Clay, one of the main reasons I ran for city council is I'm a small business owner, and I wanted to make sure more local, small, minority business owners had an opportunity to do business with city government. I get a lot of calls from people who interface with city government and some of the challenges they've experienced. And in my experience when talking to those folks and getting their feedback, they feel like the process could move a little smoother, a little faster, things of that nature. Processing invoices, processing reimbursements, negotiating contracts, and just getting things moving at a faster pace. So I wanted to take a deep dive at our processes, our procedures, and see if we can get some best practices, recommendations from a third-party independent source.
Talk about the kinds of technology the city parish is using to process payments and invoicing versus what you may need to have.
Yeah. Well, Munis is the current system that we're using. And I commissioned this study in 2024, the first quarter of 2024. They looked at 2023. Okay. John Kim, who is a Harvard Business School professor and the CEO of the district management group, they conducted the study. And they do this all across the country, working with cities, school districts, and organizations, evaluating their internal operations and making sure they're more efficient and effective. What John recommended was Unis was a great system to use. Many cities use it, but what the challenge is the design of the current system that we have. It needs to have a rework. Some of the challenges they had with just pulling the data and evaluating some of this data was challenging because of the type of design that was in place. Another thing that took place, and this came from Eric Romero within our IT department, when they onboarded Unis, everybody in city parish government was trained on the system. That was in 2017. There has not been another training on the system since 2017. Now, mind you, 8 years ago, a lot of people have been onboarded that's utilizing the system. A lot of people have left city parish that took the training. So one of the outliers in the report from John was there was confusion and a lack of understanding on how to use the system from internally and external partners. So with the lack of training, with the design need to be reworked, it's a recipe for disaster. So I want to thank the previous administration and the Broome administration with embracing the study, embracing the constructive criticism, and the current administration, the Edwards administration, knowing we have work to do. I also have to take my hat off to Paul Narcisse. His team have made some improvements and have been moving the needle to improve outcome for users in the system, and we've all been working collaboratively to speed the process up.
What will be the first thing you think you'll do based upon takeaways from the report, and then when will we start to see some changes in the system? Well,
John made some recommendations that we need to do. I think we need to embrace those recommendations and start putting a plan of action in place to address them. I think the first step was taken. doing the evaluation, understanding we have some challenges here, and we have a lot of people in city parish government that's doing business with the city that have some pain points, have some challenges. As small business owners, as you know, you're dealing with 30, 60, 90-day net sometime, and that can be challenging in itself if you don't have a line of credit, if you don't have a lot of resources on hand to make payroll, to cover overhead, things of that nature. You don't need additional steps, additional delays put in place by your city parish government to stop you from getting paid.
I mean, that's one of the reasons so few businesses want to do work with the city. It's because not everyone has the cash flow to wait a month or 2 months because you got payroll and everything, supplies. So this will make that better. When do you expect to see some changes for businesses?
I think we expect to see some changes within 30 to 60 days. Let me tell you some low-hanging fruit. One of the things we found out, Clay, is 90 to 95% of our vendors receive a paper check. Let me tell you why that's challenging. Because one, logistically, you either have to come pick up the check from City Hall, or they have to mail it to you, and depend on how that outcome is, depends on when you get that check. If you're a small business and you have a lot of money on hand, if the city writes you a $20,000 check, typically your bank is going to put that check on hold for 5, 10, 15 days. Well, we are in the 21st century where we're doing digital pay, wires, ACH. If you get that electronically deposited, those funds are made available right away. You don't have to delay and wait on them.
So you save money on paper and postage and processes, and the money is there. It's going to the vendor anyway. It's just, it's easier. And I think it gives the city a lot more leverage to encourage quality from the people it's paying. Don't you agree?
Yes.
So I got a little less than a minute. Malaysia, you don't want to be on camera, do you? Okay, his daughter Malaysia is here from FAMU, undergrad from LSU, and I didn't want to just call her over here.
That's okay. I drug her here, picked her up from the airport, told her she had to come visit with me.
I have a daughter too. That would have gone south if you don't ask your daughter. Quickly, in 2025, give me a couple goals you have for the Metro Council to help improve the quality of life and operations for the people of the city of Baton Rouge and your district.
Yes, one of the biggest goals I have for my district personally is to bring my community center, which we've been working on. I'm the only, District 6 I should say, is the only rural urban district that does not have a community center. We put a mechanism in place with the Cartana Corridor Economic Development District, which pulls some dollars from the Amazon project to fund infrastructure, facade improvements in that area, and the community center. So that's one. Collectively, we have a new administration in place that has never been in local government. So myself and my council colleagues have to embrace the new administration, partner with them, work with them, and make sure we have best outcomes for those who work, live, and play here in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Looking forward to it. Don't be a stranger, brother.
I won't.
Congratulations, Malaysia. Finish up that graduate degree. All right, back to talk about mental health next. And here's where you can catch the show. It airs on the WAFB app and on WAFB Plus on Fridays, 7 o'clock p.m. and replaying on Saturday at 3 p.m. Oh, the changing nature of television. Dr. Jan Laughinghouse with the Capital Area Human Services Office was supposed to be here, but she's a bit under the weather, so best wishes. The sheriff is sick, Jan is sick, but Matt's doing A-OK, and he's talking about that event we mentioned in the open, the Super Bowl happening down in New Orleans this weekend, brother.
Yeah, it's like football, right? You sub in. Yeah, I was ready to go. Just getting the call, right? All right, strap the helmet on. Here we go.
So let's talk about first of all, so this is like a nerdy thing that I wanted to ask you about that has to do with the Super Bowl, the Superdome as it relates to the Super Bowl. $560 million in upgrades and renovations to the Superdome. The Saints will get the benefit of that, but that's really, really something.
Sounds about right. You know, when you got the big game coming in, right? You got all the national attention that comes with it. I think that all just kind of, it makes sense. You get the spotlight on you from the NFL, and in light of that, you go into next year for the Saints, they're going to get to play with it.
So what do you think about this week so far, Super Bowl week, as we get into the weekend?
Well, it's pretty neat because the whole city, as we're talking about New Orleans here, really just gets behind the effort and transfers into this, you know, national spotlight that we're talking about here. It all starts with the NFL Media Night, where all the players get all those fun questions and all the eyeballs are on them. But then leading up to the week, and especially in a place like New Orleans, I'm sure Bourbon Street's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, the increase in security measures as well. So I'm sure the city's buzzing, and you know, haven't had a game there, the Super Bowl that is, since 2013, right?
Well, you bring that up. Being that I am a lifelong 49er fan, thank you for that, Matt.
The Harbaugh.
Where the lights went out.
Lights, yeah, right.
Yeah, they were beating us like a garage sale couch, and then all the lights went out inside of the Superdome, and we started to walk it back, only to lose it at the end. Fun times. Thanks for bringing that up. Hey, you're a Commanders fan, huh?
That's right.
It's got to sting a little bit.
It stings, and Jaden, I'm sure everyone knows him here, right?
He was just rock solid.
Greatest rookie quarterback ever. Can we say that? Maybe. I don't know. That's up to viewer discretion. But
I mean, Brock Purdy had a pretty good rookie season.
He did play. Well, there's your Niner chime
I'm just
right
saying,
there.
I can't help it. I'm afflicted with it.
I mean, again, the franchise hadn't been to a game like that since the 1991 season, the NFC Championship game. So, yeah, you're one game away from the Super Bowl.
Look, I think he had a phenomenal season. I think he's in the running for league MVP overall.
For sure.
What's more important for me is how good he makes us look. I mean, the way he carries himself, everything about him. Let's talk about the two teams that are in the big game on Sunday. What do the Chiefs have to do to win the game? Outside of let the referees do their job.
Well, yeah, that's one of the national conversations.
Yeah.
In fact, players got questions about that. Oh, the ref's on your side, and they laughed it off and played it off real well. But, the Chiefs obviously have been there and done that, clearly.
Yeah.
They're looking to be the first team ever to three-peat. So you got maybe the best coach of all time, arguably, in Andy Reid.
Oh, I want to vomit.
Game managers, right? So they just got to do what they've done before. Be smart.
Yeah.
You're the team that everyone's trying to keep from winning 3 in a row.
Yeah.
So I think they just play like themselves. You've got the greatest quarterback maybe ever in Mahomes.
God, he's killing me here. Can we talk about the Eagles? What do the Eagles need to do to win?
The Eagles need to utilize a guy who, outside of a quarterback MVP season named Saquon Barkley,
Absolutely.
he should be the guy that could get that title. Run the ball. This makes them they add that other element. They have Jalen Hurts who runs the ball real well. You get another running back in there now, so they become two-dimensional in the running game. On top of that, they can air it out to A.J. Brown, and they've got the best scoring defense in the postseason.
Okay.
Up to this point.
All right.
It's going to be, you got Goliath and Goliath going head-to-head.
You're back now. All right, so you got a prediction for Sunday?
Score-wise, I'm still kind of thinking, but and you just said the Commanders earlier. I can't root for the division rival. That just knocked us out. I can't do that. So
really?
No way.
I understand completely because I can't root for the Rams, Seahawks, or Cardinals.
And I think we're witnessing greatness, too, with Mahomes. So while we're in it, I think maybe we keep seeing it. I think the Chiefs get it done. I think it's going to be close like the last time they played and give Mahomes his 3rd straight and 4th overall.
Kirk, I don't know that we're going to be inviting Matt back anytime soon. I'm just saying.
Eagles voter right here.
And Alyssa's in my ear saying she agrees with you. Okay, here are my predictions because both teams can't lose. I'm predicting that the Eagles will win the Super Bowl 28-17.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
digits.
I think Saquon Barkley gets off really, really early. There's a little nip and tuck in the middle, and the Eagles hold on to it.
Maybe I can break even with you here. Whoever has the ball last, I think, is probably in the best position to win. You hear that all the time, but when you have two juggernauts like this going head-to-head, teams that won, more than 13, 14 games this year that have proven it, I think you don't want to give that team the ball at the end of the game.
Especially when the refs help you like they do with Kansas City. All right, let's talk about the C-suite. And we have a little treat for you about next week's episode. If you don't have the WAFB app, you better get it. But you can also catch it on WAFB.com. I'll let you in on something next. Man, the C-suite's been on fire lately. The last show in January was at Don Juan Cigars. A group of guys sitting together talking about a bunch of topics, enjoying some cigars. Next month, we're going to be on the road on the road at the end of the month. And next week's episode, airing Monday on the WAFB app and WAFB.com, features a conversation with Detective Tom Lang. Why does that name sound familiar? He was one of the lead investigators in the O.J. Simpson murder case. He was actually the cop on the phone with O.J. during the slow speed chase. I'm in a good mood. The Super Bowl is this weekend, so we want to give you a little something. So here's a clip from next week's show. Because he was the officer on the phone when Simpson was in the slow speed chase on the 5 freeway in A.C. Callan's Bronco driving around. You were talking with him, and to cut quickly through the beginning, you talked with someone who had his number. You called him. You talked with him all on the way to his house. I mean, you lost the connection a couple times. Tell me about that experience and what you were thinking as you were talking with him as he was approaching his home.
Okay, well, I was, obviously, it was the morning, that Friday morning, he was to turn himself in, and he never did.
Right.
There's another story there. Phil and I wanted to just go out and make the arrest, bring him in, no problems. The brass wanted a perp walk, as they call it. They had to have the media involved. And this is what they ended up with, a pile of crap. It was terrible. So I walked in, I'm feeling better. Well, we got to find this guy. He's taking off with AC. And so I'm at my desk, putting stuff around, taking a couple of calls, and we got a TV like I have here up in the corner. And somebody said, "Hey, Simpson's on the TV." And it's all with a so-called slow-speed pursuit. And I said, "Oh, now we're into it." This went on for a few minutes, and then I said, talking to Patty Jo Fairbanks at the DA's office, and she says, "He's got that mobile phone." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I get his number right here on my desk." I says, "What? Give me his number." And so she gives me his number, and I'm thinking, he's not going to pick up anyway, but I got to do something. Now he's got a gun. Somebody says, "Hey, he's got a gun." So everybody, "Oh my gosh, what is he going to do with a gun?" So I get him, I call in, he picks up the second ring. He said, "Juice, yeah, it's Tom Lang." Oh, and the guy, one of our guys runs out, grabs the tape recorder, comes out. So he missed the first few minutes, but he's moaning about this and moaning about that. So we get the tape recorder hooked up, and there were like 3 or 4 calls after that because we kept losing him, and I kept calling back, and he kept answering.
Not bad, huh? Well, you can catch the entire episode on Monday, WAFB.com, or on the app Detective Tom Lang. Now, next week, we're going to talk about a community thing that involves kids here. I can't wait to get into that with you. And look, this weekend, if you're out and about enjoying the game, be safe, be smart. If you're on the way to New Orleans, what is wrong with you? Otherwise, go Eagles. Have a great weekend.